Find it. Oh, find it before.
All right. Good afternoon, commissioners, and over to you, Chair Harrington.
Thank you, Clerk Moss. And we have a full contingent of the board. We had attendance earlier. So we'll just dive right in. Oh, start over. Today is Tuesday, June 23rd, 2026, and we're here in the Washington County Board of Commissioners work session. Clerk Moss, could you please take the roll?
Certainly, Chair Harrington. Commissioner Snyder.
Here.
Aye. Commissioner Treese.
Here.
Vice Chair Willie.
Here.
Chair Harrington.
Here. All right, now we'll dive into our first topic for today. There's Carl Schweitzer. And the topic is appoint members to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, as well as members to the Metzger Park Local Improvement District Advisory Board.
Good afternoon, Chair Harrington. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Nice to see you again. Carl Schweitzer, your Parks Division Manager, and we have some vacancies on our two boards. Chair Harrington just identified them as the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board and the Metzger Park Local Improvement District. The Parks and Recreation Advisory Board is the county's board that was formed in 1966 for the purpose of advising county staff and your board on matters of operation, maintenance, and development relating to county parks. There are currently 5 members serving on active terms of 9 total seats, 3 terms expiring at the end of this month, and 1 seat vacant due to a midterm resignation. So there are 4 positions to appoint. The Metzger Park Local Improvement District Advisory Board was approved in 1975 for the purpose of providing stable funding for Metzger Park for the maintenance, operation, and development of it. The MPLIDAB is comprised of 7 members and 2 alternates. There are currently 4 members serving active terms, 2 of which are expiring in June. Additionally, there are 3 current vacancies due to midterm resignations. So there are 5 regular positions and 2 alternate positions available for appointment. And you can see in your materials that both boards have made recommendations to you. They recommend appointing Barry Bolding to fill a midterm vacancy to a term ending June 30th of 2028, and recommend reappointing Kim Jansen, Patrick McGee, and Nico Geerling to a term ending June 30th, 2029. For the Metzger Park Local Improvement District Advisory Board, they recommend appointing Roy Beatty and Barrett Johnson to fill a midterm vacancy to a term ending June 30th, 2028, and recommend reappointing Thomas McGowan and Jordan Silk, and appointing Aaron LaFollette to a term ending June 30th, 2029. There were no other applicants, so no appointments are being recommended to fill the alternate seats of the MPLIDAB.
I have a question. Maybe I didn't read the packet right, or maybe I just didn't print everything right. On the Park and Recreation Advisory Board, it says that there are 7 applicants total, but I'm taking note of the District 3 folks, particularly because of Eagles Landing. I think that's District 3. And I can't find anything with Victoria Fisk. So the table says she's an applicant, but there's no applicant profile.
That was just a miss. It just didn't get included.
Okay.
Apologies for that. But it was fully considered and debated by the Park and Recreation Advisory Board.
Well, so my reason for asking is this. Because Eagle Creek is so proximate to Tiger Tualatin area, given the weird geography over there. I was wondering about having someone who is more proximate to that area. Um, but I can't tell from the applicants if any of them were indeed proximate to Eagles Landing and or canoeists. I'm not displeased with the experience and what's listed in the profile of Barry Bolding. But given Eagles Landing, I just feel like I would like to see someone active on the advisory board that is a canoe, kayak, water user versus what I see through the experience. So I'm fine with these appointments, but I'll just leave that as food for thought for the future. It just seems like a potential lack. Absence is the word I was looking for. Any comments on that? I mean, I could be totally wrong.
No, I don't really have anything to add to that, other than the only information that we have from most of the candidates is what they put in their application. So we don't know everything about each of the candidates. My apologies for missing the application for Victoria Fisk.
The notes on Mr. Bowling indicate that he lives, south of Forest Grove Cornelius, but that he's an active outdoorsman and has hiked
Mhm.
800 miles of the PCT. It does not specifically say that he does things on the water. I would just guess he does something as that avid of an outdoors person, but hard to know.
Yeah, it's just given the portfolio that I always remind myself, right? Hag Lake, Eagles Landing, and Metzger is the entire portfolio. That's why I was thinking about it. I'm not displeased with these recommendations at all.
Commissioner Willie, do you know Mr. Bowling related to the Salmonberry Trail? That's listed on here too.
I don't.
You don't.
The name doesn't ring a bell, but we have
Lots of volunteers.
Lots of people.
hundreds of
I know that
volunteers.
Carolyn has talked to him.
Oh, that-
So
That's
with,
why I just leave it as food for thought. And I don't know if under the page, the web page that lists all the committees that has a blurb on this committee, if we call out those 3 parks specifically by name or not. That might be another way to increase interest as well.
that's a good point.
That's all.
So with your permission, we'll put this on one of your next business meetings for the consent agenda.
Was everybody okay with Metzger as well? I know I called attention to the
Yes.
parks.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I look forward to having Mr. Roy B participating, given how much robust feedback and insightful feedback he's provided.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yes. That'll be great. Cool.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you. All right. Good to see you, Carl. Onward we go to the primary election update. Thank you for being here today.
All right, thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Harrington and Board of Commissioners. I'm Eric Olson, Director of Assessment, Taxation, Records, and Elections. And I'm joined today by Dan Forrester, Elections Division Manager, who will be presenting on the May 19th, 2026 primary election.
All right. Good afternoon, Chair Harrington, Board of Commissioners. Once again, for the record, Dan Forrester, Manager of the Elections Division.
And we're bringing up the presentation as you speak.
Perfect.
Yes.
Yeah, it's loading very slowly.
So Wrong presentation though.
I can't speak to this subject.
As much as you'd like to.
The pop quiz.
You know what VRF stands for?
Yeah.
Vehicle registration fee. That would be a fun versatility exercise.
For us, and
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, I think so.
A little mean person.
Well, it's just the authorization of it. How many pictures you get?
There we go.
There we go.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Kevin. This looks more familiar. All right, so very pleased to present you with this recap of the May 19th, 2026 primary election. I'll just start with the agenda.
Is it on? Has anybody turned it on yet?
You have to press this button at the front. Oh, there it is. There it goes. All right, so just reviewing the agenda, we're going to talk about what we've done recently to wrap up the primary election. And we'll go through sort of a timeline or a description of the workflow of what we do in administering the election. I'll share with you some election statistics. I'll talk about what the Elections Division has done to engage the voters in Washington County and outreach to the community. I'll talk about the ways that the Elections Division continues to maintain community trust, and then I'll leave you with a few key takeaways, and of course, there will be ample time, I'm sure, for your questions. Whoops. There we go. Okay. So we are actually right now in the process of wrapping up the election. We certified the election on Friday, June 12th, and that certification was are sending all of the official results of the election to all of the participating districts. Of course, this included Washington County, but also the state of Oregon, so the Secretary of State's office, and all of the other participating districts, such as the city of Beaverton, city of Tigard, Tualatin Hills Park and Rec District, and then some other districts that are shared with other counties, such as Newburgh School District, Clackamas is Lake Oswego, River Grove, and Wilsonville, and then Metro. Of course, Multnomah is the filing office for Metro. The results of the election are available on the archive page on the Elections Division website, and they're also currently available on the Secretary of State's results page. I've included those links in the slide presentation for reference. Okay, so I want to go over the workflow of what we do in conducting an election. And before I start, I just want to acknowledge that the elections team is a small group. There's 9 people in the Elections Division, including myself. We're a competent group, but we simply could not conduct an election without a lot of assistance from the community. And so every election, we're joined by many temporary workers who help us in every aspect of administering the election, from helping us with voter registration, proofing, tabulating ballots, every step of the way. So we couldn't do it without the scores of people and sometimes even hundreds of people that help us out to conduct the election. So this summary, which is going to be this slide and the next, is a summary of the workflow. It begins over 2 months before Election Day, and it doesn't conclude until over a month after Election Day. So it's really quite a long time. Also really important to say at the outset that the Elections Division operates in an environment that's politically neutral, where we follow all of the laws to the letter. And this is just foundational to our credibility as elections administrators, and we do this every step of the way. Every step of the way, we are politically neutral, we are following the law, we are bipartisan in nature. So the first step on the journey is the measure and candidate filing phase. And this is where candidates are coming to our office to file for elected office. We are the filing office for county elected positions as well as special district elected positions. So in this last election, we had on the ballot county chair, commissioner for District 2 and District 4, and county auditor. We were also the filing office for the Washington County Charter measure that appeared on the ballot and the THPRD measures. They are a special district. The city of Beaverton is their own filing office for their candidates, and then they send us a certified list of candidates to put on the ballot. We are also the filing office for precinct committee person contests, and so these are partisan contests. They are grassroots organizers that are elected by precinct to work on party matters, and so we conduct those elections as well. So once we get done with the candidate and measure filing period, which is the deadline there is about 60 days before election day, we begin immediately on ballot design and proofing. We have a very short window to do our ballot design work, and it usually happens over a weekend. The primary is particularly complicated because we have all of the usual contests, all of the usual candidate contests and measures on the ballot, but we also have the partisan ballot styles. And so in addition to non-affiliated ballot styles, we also have ballot styles for the Democratic and Republican parties. So it's just that much more complicated. Plus, we have the precinct committee person contests. We call them PCPs for short. And those contests can be challenging because there are so many positions available in some of the precincts. Once we are done designing those ballots, and I should mention that there were over 1,000 ballot styles this primary election. Once we're done with that design, we begin proofing because, of course, there can't be any mistakes on the ballot. That takes a few days. That's where we have everybody on staff helping out, in addition to a lot of temporary workers. We're exhaustively proofing the ballots, doing redundant work to make sure that we're catching every possible error. At the same time that ballot design and proofing is happening, we're also working on the voters pamphlet. Washington County is proud to offer the voters pamphlet to our voters. Not every county is able to do it, but Washington County has made it a priority. It's happening, though, at the very same time that we're doing all this other work. So it's a lot of work happening in a short period of time. Just as with the ballots, we can't have any errors on this public document, the voters pamphlets. We're very careful to proof that exhaustively as well. When both the ballots and the voters pamphlets are designed and proofed, then we're ready to send them both off to the printers. We do that. And the next stop on our journey is logic and accuracy testing. And this is something that we're required to do by statute. It is an internal testing that we do to make sure that all of our tabulation equipment is working correctly and as expected. As I've mentioned a couple of times already, the primary election is very complicated. And so the logic and accuracy testing for this type of election is also very robust. So we had what we call a test deck of 32,000 ballots that we put through each one of our 6 tabulation scanning stations, just to make sure that they are all counting correctly and that the software is working correctly. The total number of test ballots scanned over all of those ballot stations was about 192,000. So quite robust testing. It takes more than 2 days to complete this testing. We also are required to perform a public test of our tabulation equipment, which is a subset or a summary version of this larger logic and accuracy test. So the public test, there's 2 public tests. One happens before we start scanning ballots for the election. The other one, we conduct the other public test when we are all done scanning ballots right before we certify. Those public tests are summary versions of the logic and accuracy test, and they, instead of taking 2 days, they take more like 4 hours. So the public, of course, is invited to those events. So after we are done with testing, we move on to the voter registration deadline. Of course, we are always in the elections office working on voter registration. We do that year round. We're making sure that the voter rolls are up to date, that voters who move within the county, that we're capturing their correct address. If a voter moves out of the county or out of state, we're inactivating or canceling them. When voters pass away, we make sure that we are canceling those voters. So we're always doing that work. It's a dynamic organism, and we're constantly working on that. We're also changing party affiliation, which becomes relevant, especially in the primary election. And so as in the lead up to that voter registration deadline, which in a primary election is also the party choice deadline, there is a lot of activity on the part of the voting public. They are updating their addresses, making sure that we have their current information. They're also maybe choosing to change their party affiliation. They have to do that 21 days before election day. They have to change their party affiliation. They can change their address after that deadline. So that deadline happens 21 days before election day. I should also remind you, although I think you know, we have about 400,000 registered voters right now in Washington County. So there's a lot of movement in that group.
Chair, is it okay if I ask a question? You'll prefer we wait? What if we wait and get through it all?
Go on to the next slide. So as soon as the ballots are printed and ready to send out, we begin working to get those out to our military and overseas voters. So these are folks who are stationed either domestically on bases here in the US or overseas, or voters who are living overseas but have a Oregon residence address. And so per federal law, ballots to this group, which is sometimes called UOCAVA, have to go out 45 days before election day. We have around 1,800 UOCAVA voters in this category. Those ballots go out 45 days before election day. We also have a deadline associated with out-of-state voters. So these are voters who have an out-of-state mailing address. So think college students, or snowbirds, or other people who are living temporarily outside of Oregon, but maintain an Oregon residence address. These folks also need more time to get their ballot and send it back to us. And so per state law, we send these out 29 days before election day. And we have around 1,700 voters in this category. 20 days before election day, we come to our main ballot mailing. And this is when we mail out the vast majority of our ballots, so around 399,000. Those all go out on 20 days before election day, and almost as soon as they are mailed out, we begin collecting them from drop sites and through the post office. So our teams, again, these are mostly temporary elections workers, will be going to the post office to collect those ballots, and then to our 21 ballot drop site locations in Washington County and collecting them, bringing them back. Once they are back at the office, we begin with ballot processing and signature verification. This is a good time to just remind a couple of the sort of safeguards that we have in place around ballot processing. So each ballot issued has a unique ballot identification number, and this prevents a voter from casting more than one ballot in an election. It is possible for voters to be issued more than one ballot. So for example, if we get a late address change, a voter might get that second ballot, and it's possible for a voter either intentionally or unintentionally to send in that second ballot. But we only count the ballot that has the active ballot identification number. And the system is set up to kick out the ballot that is not the active ballot. And also part of our ballot processing process is to verify signatures on all ballot envelopes. And so only ballots that have the signature verified can go on to be accepted and counted. So each ballot is, the signature on each ballot is verified before they are accepted. After ballots are accepted, we go on to ballot opening and tabulation. So the ballots are removed from the ballot return envelopes in a way that preserves the voter privacy and that keeps that secret ballot secret. And once that happens, they are scanned into our tabulation system, which begins counting the votes. So even though we don't know what those vote totals are, the system is working in the background to tabulate the totals. And they are kept secret until the 8:00 p.m. deadline on election day. Something that's happening too, along with tabulation of ballots, is adjudication of ballots. And so this is where we have bipartisan teams of election workers that are adjudicating votes to accord with the voter's intent. So for example, if the system cannot identify how a vote should be counted, I'll give the example of an overvote. So let's say the system seems to have perceive on the ballot that the voter has chosen 2 ovals in one contest. That's what we call an overvote. But perhaps the voter has actually marked off one, saying, I don't want this one, I want the other one. They've changed their mind. It requires a human team of adjudicators to go in and look and see what the voter's intent truly is. So that's an example of what those bipartisan teams of workers are doing. Another example could be if the voter has made a very light mark in an oval, or maybe they have done something else, like they've circled the oval. It would require human interaction with the system to correctly adjudicate those votes. So that's happening as we are doing tabulation. And then skipping ahead to the end, results reporting. So unofficial results of the election are available starting at 8 p.m. on election day. We have a schedule of results reporting where on election day, we'll do a results report at 8 p.m., 10 p.m., and then midnight. And then typically we will go to every Friday following up until the certification deadline. Those are all unofficial results until we get to the certification deadline, and then they are official. This election, we had a number of close contests, as I'm sure you're all aware. And so we responded to the high degree of interest from the public and the media and the campaigns and the candidates, and we increased the frequency of our results reporting just so people would have more clarity about where the results really were. And so we're very grateful to the patience on the part of all of those media organizations, and candidates, and campaigns as we got those results out. And I think a lot of people understood that the most important thing for the elections office is that we are accurate and that we are giving correct results, and that sometimes it takes a little while to get correct results. I think people were gracious and understood that where we were coming from. Okay, well, I wanted to share with you a few statistics from this election. Up in the upper left-hand corner, we have voter turnout. And so in this primary election, we had around 154,000 ballots cast. This amounted to 38.5% voter turnout. This was actually a little bit on the high side for a primary election. Just comparing it to the last gubernatorial primary, we like to compare apples to apples when we're comparing different elections. The May 2022 election had 36.9% turnout and around 141,000 ballots cast. Of course, we had fewer voters in Washington County 4 years ago than we do today. Voter turnout can really range wildly. So we do like to look at comparable elections. So for a gubernatorial primary, we like to look at the last gubernatorial primary and maybe the one before that when we're making our projections. Because across the board, voter turnout can range from anywhere between 15% for a special district election all the way up to almost 80% for a presidential election. So there's quite a wide range there. In the upper right-hand tile, we have our estimated cost of election. This is an estimate because this is the part of the election that we're not quite done with yet. We're still getting all of the invoices for the election, and we are creating our own invoices that we send out to those districts that we can bill for the election. But it's pretty close, right around $525,000 total cost, including the voter's pamphlet. This works out to about $1.31 for every registered voter in the county, and about $3.41 for every ballot cast.
That's all in cost.
I'm sorry.
Ballot printing, all of your
Yeah.
staff, everything.
Right, yes, that's staff time, well, so it's permanent staff overtime. It's all of our temporary worker labor. It is printing of ballots, it's mailing of ballots, printing of voter pamphlet, so inclusive. Yep. Comparing it to the last gubernatorial election, it's pretty much in line. That one cost us $514,000. Again, we had fewer registered voters at the time, $1.35 per eligible voter in May 2022, and $3.64 per ballot cast. So we did a little bit better this time around on the cost. Across the board, $4 per ballot cast is an average cost.
That's the number I was hoping.
I was anticipating that question. All right, another statistic that we look at when we're summing up the election is the number of challenged ballots. So just to define this term, a challenged ballot is one where there is a signature that doesn't match, signature on the ballot envelope that doesn't match what we have on file, or when the voter has failed to sign the ballot entirely. So this election, we had right around 2,400 that were challenged due to a non-matching signature, right around 500 that were challenged because they didn't sign the ballot at all. And of those, so the voters have an opportunity to fix this problem and have their ballot counted. For those voters whose signature doesn't match, they have to fill out a registration card. For those who didn't sign the ballot, there's an affidavit that they can complete. And if they complete those forms and send them back within 3 weeks of election day, we're able to accept and count those ballots. And we call that curing the challenge. And so of those challenged ballots, 1327 were cured by that deadline. So, and these numbers are roughly in line with other comparable elections. And then finally, ballots counted. As I mentioned, we did have more than 1,000 ballot styles, 1,011 to be exact. We had 383 contests on the ballot. So the precinct committee person contests amount for the bulk of those. There's 155 precincts in the county, and there are Democratic and Republican PCP contests, so that is 310 of the contests. The remaining 73 are all of the other candidate contests and measures. We had 203 ballots this election, which the system was not able to read and that had to be manually adjudicated fully by our bipartisan teams. And these are ballots that were damaged where the system could not identify what ballot style it was. So we had to have a team go in and tell it what ballot style and how the voter intended to vote. And then finally, fun fact, we had 37 ballots that came back that were completely blank. And this is typical. We often will see a few dozen
37 out of,
out of 153, 686. Yeah, a small percentage.
little message, nothing written on those.
One more question on the ballot. So what if somebody marks 2 dots at the same
Overvote.
So if
vote for
they,
both of them?
right, if they choose both ovals, like, or multiple ovals in the same contest, that's what we call an overvote. So if it's a vote for one and they give us 2 ovals that are completely filled in, it's an overvote, neither of them count.
And if they don't vote for either, is it an undervote?
It's called an undervote.
Yeah, okay.
And what, on the undervote, what do you see as normal? It seemed like there are a lot of undervotes this time.
Well, it depends on the contest. I think that we do see more undervotes when there is like there's one candidate filed and there's no opposition.
Right.
Right. So a lot of the judicial contests were undervoted. Yeah, but it's not unusual to see a lot of undervotes. And one common question that we get from voters is, do I have to vote every contest on the ballot? And absolutely, you don't. You can vote for as many or as few, or as 37 voters decided, none.
Do you think that was a message?
That's an undervote.
That was
Does
an
that count
That
as,
is.
do those 37 count as undervotes for all contests?
Yes, yeah, they would go into those totals. Yep. All right. So I want to share a little bit about what we're doing in our continuing efforts for voter engagement and outreach. So starting up on the top left again, Washington County is very happy that we're able to offer our voters the Ballot Tracks platform. This is a messaging tool that I'm sure you're all familiar with, and I'm sure you're all signed up for it, but it, for those listening, it offers the opportunity to get a text message or email message or a phone message when the ballots have been sent out, when they have been received by the elections office, when they have been accepted, And if there is a signature challenge, they get a message that is tailored to that need as well.
For all those people who come and testify about, well, I submitted my ballot, but it didn't get challenged, that's a plug for ballot tracks.
Right. Ballot tracks is an excellent way to confirm that your vote, your ballot has been received and counted.
And how long have we had this availability?
Oh, we have I could get back to you on the exact date, but it has certainly been more than 7 or 8 years, I think.
Yeah.
Right.
I was gonna say 10, but maybe.
Well, because the reason why I asked that question is because the one you asked was the folks that are saying, well, my ballot was counted or something. They're usually using 2020,
Yeah,
2020 windows. So I was wondering
Past
if ballot
decades.
tracks was available. That doesn't sound like it was.
Yeah, and ballot tracks would give that confirmation to the voter, but of course we do in our voter registration database, we keep track of who has cast a ballot in a given election. So we can go back and look at that.
And you've seen a steady increase in ballot tracks, correct?
In fact, we have, right. And so the point I wanted to make with this slide is that we added 2,100 ballot tracks users in this last election. And so right now we are at close to 60,000 users. So close to 60,000 of our voters in Washington County have signed up for the service and are getting that confirmation. So it's a little bit more than 1/8 of our registered voters.
And does that add to our cost per ballot?
There is, yes, that is figured into the overall cost for the election.
Worthwhile. I'm just,
Yeah,
peace of mind is.
oh, yeah.
and in a way, it does offer a cost savings because we have to answer
Who gets
less
calls.
less calls and less emails. Right. So another service that we're very pleased to offer is our Votes platform, and this is exclusively for the UOCAVA military and overseas voters who are allowed to cast their ballot electronically if they wish. So this is a mobile voting platform where they can mark their ballot using their device, their mobile phone, and then submit it using that device as well. So again, only available for those overseas voters who have for a long time been able to vote, cast their ballot using email. This is just a way to extend that to them. We've been offering this since 2021, and the number of people using this technology has increased over time. We hit a high mark in November 2024 where we had over 800 people casting their ballot using Votes. This election, we had about 219 voters
What year
using
was
it. November 2024, we had actually 870. Right. Of course, that was a presidential election.
Yeah.
Did they get an account set up for them or?
Yes, yep. They set up an account and yeah, we've had almost nothing but positive feedback on the Votes platform. Yeah. So another service that we're proud to offer is voter assistance. And so this is assistance to voters who are disabled or otherwise require assistance, either having the ballot read to them or perhaps marking a ballot. These are bipartisan teams that will go out into the community to assist these voters where they are. So often they are going to assisted living centers or other community meeting places such as Beaverton Library and meeting with these folks and helping them there. Of course, people can come into our office as well and we can assist them in the same way. Again, we always assist them as a bipartisan team, so not two members of the same party, but different parties. And then finally, a lot of community outreach happened this last election, a lot of presentations, many tours to community groups. Some of the types of groups that have contacted us wanting this sort of service are advocacy organizations, union groups, Oregon League of Conservation Voters did tours. We've also had church groups contact us to do tours. We did have a church group reach out that needed Spanish interpretation, and I'm pleased to say that we were able to offer that because of our bilingual staff. And professional organizations like the Washington County Public Affairs Forum, and then of course, just individual members of the community who come in and ask for a tour. If we can make it happen during an election, we do. You know, it's a very busy time. You know how busy we are processing ballots and doing signature verification and all those other functions. But if we can carve out 15 minutes or half an hour for a tour, we certainly do. So this slide is around the efforts that we continue to make in maintaining community trust. Really, the most important thing is right up there at the top on the left. That's Washington County Elections Division follows the law. We follow all federal and state law regarding elections. And if we are ever in doubt, we consult the statute, we consult the rule book, we reach out to the Secretary of State as the Chief Elections Officer, ask for guidance and direction. We consult with our colleagues at other counties. Where the law is silent, we are making sure that we are following documented procedures that will guide us. So there are a lot of business practices that we have just internally in our office that are not necessarily spelled out in statute. We want to make sure that we are being uniform and consistent in our application. We want to be consistent internally within our office, and as much as possible, we like to be consistent with what other elections offices are doing in the other 35 counties in Oregon. And so we reach out and communicate with those offices to see what the best practice is. Following documented procedures necessarily leads to the next item on the left, accurate results. So if we are doing things consistently and in accordance with best practice in a way that we've agreed is the best way to do it, we are likely to achieve accurate results. We also have a number of double checks. I've mentioned a couple of the safeguards that we have in place, but we have a number of double checks in the process so that we are doing real-time reconciliation as we are processing ballots, and we are able to flag instances where we might have an exception that might be throwing our counts off, where we need to look to see if there's a mistake that's been made. Those are happening in real time. I talked on the last slide about tours and presentations. I wanted to emphasize it here as an aspect of maintaining community trust. We don't really see it as a nice to have or an optional thing. It's essential to what we do. Our job is to educate the community as to what is happening in the elections office, and so that is just critical and fundamental to what we do. Transparency and communication with the media and the public is always important, and even when, and especially when, we've made a mistake. So we want to make sure that we're getting out ahead of that, and we are, we are continuing to be seen as credible people who can own our mistakes and fix them. The last item here, it could be the first because it is one of the most important, remembering that the voters, the customers of the Washington County Elections Division are the reason that we do this work. And we spend a lot of effort in making sure that we are always reducing barriers for all of the eligible voters in Washington County, and that we are always working to ensure that the voters have the resources they need and the information they need in order to cast their ballot on time. We're looking forward, a couple of items here. We have some budgeted funds for video enhancements at the elections office. So as part of the recently adopted budget, we're very happy that we're able to add additional cameras within our building. Specifically, this would add camera capacity to our boards, our ballot opening and tabulation area, and to our warehouse and sorting area. So it's been something that's been requested. We're glad that we're able to fulfill that request. This will increase transparency and give members of the public a much better view of ballot processing. I also wanted to just touch upon a couple of legal issues. So the Supreme Court ruling on postmarked ballots. I'll stay in my lane on the legal stuff, but so the Supreme Court, as you might know, is considering a challenge to a Mississippi law that allows ballots postmarked on or before Election Day to be accepted and counted. So there are 29 states that have some version of a postmark law on the books, including Oregon. Oregon's postmark law came out of the 2021 legislative session. It became effective January 1st, 2022. And briefly, it requires that ballots that are postmarked on or before Election Day and received within 7 days of Election Day be eligible to be counted. So there is a decision expected soon from the Supreme Court on this, possibly before July 1st. I was looking at the news before I came here to see if I could add anything, but nothing as of yet. And so we don't know how the Supreme Court is going to decide. If they do decide that ballots received after Election Day that are postmarked on or before Election Day are not eligible, of course, Washington County is going to follow the law. And we are going to be seeking direction from County Council as well as our partners at the Secretary of State's office on how to best be in compliance with that law. We would likely just be going back to how we processed ballots prior to January 1st, 2022. And it wouldn't have a huge impact on what we do logistically. The difference is going to be if we did have to roll that back, it is a communication effort because we have spent the last 5 years, Washington County, all of the 36 counties and the Secretary of State's office have spent the last 5 years educating voters on Oregon's postmark law and telling them that if they cast their ballot, they mail it in, and we receive it within 7 days, and it's postmarked on or before Election Day, we'll be able to accept it. So we're going to have probably redouble those efforts with new messaging. And the greatest impact, the voter group that is going to see the greatest impact is going to be the out-of-state voters. So these are voters in the United States, not UOCAVA voters who can vote using electronic means like the Votes platform or email, but voters who are elsewhere in the United States who do not have an option of using one of our 21 ballot drop site locations. You have to put their ballot in the mail. And so they are going to see the greatest effect. The bottom line on this, as with any legal question, is Washington County Elections Division follows all federal and state laws regarding elections. I also want to just touch on the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act, or the SAVE Act, which is currently in Congress. Again, just with the Supreme Court decision, we don't know if this is going to become law or if it will become law in its current articulated form. But just to go over some of the provisions of the SAVE Act, it would require voters to prove citizenship in person in order to register to vote. It would require voters to produce ID at polling places. Voters voting by mail would have to include a photocopy of their ID with a ballot request form and also with their ballot. States would be required to provide voter rolls to the Department of Homeland Security. So those are just a few of the provisions. There are others. There is currently no funding source identified to help with implementing those proposed changes, which of course would be pretty big changes in Oregon. If this act does become federal law, again, we will work closely with County Council and with the Secretary of State's office on determining how best to implement it and to be in compliance with the law. And again, just to hit home that point from the earlier bullet point there, we are going to follow all federal and state laws in every situation. Okay. Finally, I just want to close with just a few key takeaways from this recap. Washington County Elections Division does work that is fair and accurate. So we are bipartisan. We are operating in a politically neutral environment. We're often working in bipartisan teams per statute. We follow the law. The folks that join us from the community, all of our temporary workers, they're just registered, they're voters here in Washington County, just like you and I. They care about the democratic process. They believe that fair elections are critical and necessary to society. The process is secure. The people who work in the process are secure. So the process is secure because of the multiple double checks and quality control steps that we have. And the people that do this work are kept secure, due in large part thanks to our law enforcement partners, particularly our friends at the Washington County Sheriff's Office. I want to thank them here in this environment here. Also, we are trusted. We are considered reliable and authoritative on elections matters. We are politically neutral and we are committed to accuracy. And this gives us trust and credibility in the community. Washington County voters can rely upon the Elections Division to provide reliable information and reliable contest results. We are subject matter experts in elections administration, and when we talk about elections, we speak with authority. So thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity, and I just want to open it up for your questions.
Commissioner Fye? Start off?
Yeah, thank you. Dan, thank you for your presentation. I appreciate the work you do and the people you do this for and how secure this process is and how you carry this out with integrity. I appreciate. I know you guys are a lot of under under fire about this topic for about a year and a half now or so. Actually, getting close to 2 years now. But people are exercising their right to question and to be curious, and I think we're doing the best we can to try to mitigate that. I did have a question specifically about your presentation today, and I think it's also influenced by some of the questions that we've been getting and comments that we've been hearing from people. So the question I have is, and I forget what slide it was going over. Perhaps it was voter registration part of it, but you'll figure it out when I ask. So how do you, and when I say you, the election department,
Right.
I don't know how else to frame that question instead of avoiding the you, but how do you know when a registered voter moves out of Oregon? Right? Like, I think there's a lot of comments that we've been hearing that people have moved out, but they stay and they do get ballots. And I think while the cost is very impressively low, I was assuming the cost is going to be very high every year because we have a critical number of people who are registered to vote. So I'm wondering, I'm assuming that the cost will come down as well if you know that people who are not in Oregon who are receiving ballots, because that's what we've heard. So how do you know if people are moving out, but they're still getting ballots out of Oregon? And then the second part of that question, part A, is who's responsible to clean the roll, the voter roll? What is it called?
Voter registration rolls.
Registration. And then the part B of that is how many missed elections will trigger for that particular person, to become inactive and stop receiving ballots.
Right. Good questions. Thank you. So just for the first part, there's a number of ways that we get that information when a voter has moved out of Washington County or out of the state. So one of those data sources is the Postal Service. So we use national change of address information to update the voter registration rolls. So this captures a lot of those folks who are, moving within Washington County or out of the state. We also participate in an information sharing partnership. This is through our partnership with the Secretary of State's office. It's called ERIC. ERIC. That's an acronym, Electronic
Eric Olson,
Registration.
sitting right next to
Sorry.
your left.
So the Electronic Registration Information Center, I think is what it stands for. And so there's a lot of participating states. And so they're able to share information so that if somebody registers to vote in one state, we hear about it in Oregon and vice versa. So it's just one more way that we get that information when somebody has registered in another state. And of course, we have returned ballots as well. So if a ballot comes back undeliverable, then we use that information as well. And then, of course, the voters let us know sometimes. But if they're moving out of state, typically we don't hear about it from them. We'll hear about it from one of these other sources. So we are concerned about the financial aspect, keeping those costs down. And so using these data sharing partnerships help us keep those costs down. But for us, it's even more important that those voter rolls are accurate. Yeah. And so that's the most important thing. In terms of who is responsible for doing this work, it is really the responsibility of all of the folks who are working in the elections office. We're all engaged in voter registration work. And then the second part of your question, refresh my memory,
Who's
please.
responsible to remove voters from the voter
Oh,
roll?
And
Right.
And then,
And then what triggers an inactivation?
Yep.
So the rule is that if they don't vote in 2 federal elections, they'll be removed from the voter rolls.
two federal,
2 federal
two
elections.
general elections, or is it
2 general, yeah.
two
Yeah.
general?
So 2 cycles, yeah, 8 years.
Not a special election.
Right, that's correct.
And then the last question, I'll turn it back to you, Chair.
wait a second, federal is every 2 years. It's presidential, it's every 4.
Yes, yeah. It's 2 federal election cycles.
So it's 4 years.
4 years. Basically, presidential election years is what you're referring to, right? That's how I understood two general.
Because
Right. So
they're federal people on
2-year cycles.
2-year cycles.
yeah, it's actually 2 presidential cycles, so 8 years. Thank you for the
Thank you.
clarification.
And then the last question I had was this slide with the 4 corners, which happens to be my favorite slide show these days. Just bias here. And I had a question about, I appreciate, first of all, I do want to recognize the response and the level of details you provided. I hope the people listen to that and also encourage the state to continue to update that as well. Because if the state isn't updating out of state people, there's a lag for us as well. It impacts the number of people who are out of state, because I think there were multiple comments about people who were not, I'm getting to it, Chair, thank you. People who are not in Oregon or out of this state, yet they are voting or getting ballots. Those were the comments. So I think it's a good collaboration opportunity with the state to sort of,
Mhm.
yeah. And then
Just to clarify on that point, so a voter who has a residence and a mailing address here in Oregon and moves to California or any other state is not going to have that ballot forwarded to that other address.
Mhm.
So ballots are not forwardable. So we would get that back as an undeliverable ballot in that case. So for a voter to receive a ballot in another state, they have to have registered with our office with a mailing address in that state.
but I think what I've heard from residents who came to complain is, for whatever reasons, people could have been cohabitating, right? And then somebody moves out, but they continuously getting the ballot.
Right.
That's the nuances of the story that came out for me from those testimonies. But what I heard you say, and correct me if I'm wrong, is if the state isn't updating that information, it's really hard for the counties to know, because the state is busy too, dealing with so many more voters. So if the state isn't updating, then really the county, it's compulsory for you to still send ballot to that address.
The other example that you didn't include is the person may have moved out of state, wherever, and not registered any other place. So those 2 data sharing sources
that's
that
fair.
Dan mentioned. So the ballots are going to continue to be sent to that original address.
Right.
And they may not have done any mail forwarding there. So the ballot would still go to those homes or mailboxes. And it won't be until after 2 presidential cycles that those voters would be cleared.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I'm just bringing life to the comments I've heard from
Yeah.
constituents, which is particularly that people who are actually registered in that state, yet still continue to get an Oregon ballot, right? So that's what they brought life to, and that's what I'm just, but the scenario that Chair talked about is also accurate. That is, could be in play. The
So we
other,
need to move on to other commissioners.
yeah, I do.
Had 10
Final
minutes.
question I have. Yes, thank you, Chair. Well, everybody jumped in, so I
No.
felt like it was a group discussion, but you commented back and forth, Chair. But I will be on it. I'll be quick, Chair. I won't prolong. Last thing I have is challenged the signature, challenging the signature part. And I'll try to streamline this comment. But so two things. If there is no signature, do you count that ballot? Do you count that vote?
No, they have to have a signature on the ballot,
And then when do you,
on the envelope.
So I can answer that one. So if there is no signature on the ballot envelope, we send the voter a communication letting them know that they failed to sign the ballot envelope as required. And then they have the opportunity to complete a signature affidavit form saying that they did cast that ballot. And and then they send that back to us, and then we are able to count it in that case if we get that affidavit back.
That cures the defect.
It cures the defect.
so 3 weeks after the results have been certified, there is potentially,
No,
hold on,
That's
Chair, can I get my
3 weeks
question out
after
first?
election day.
The day of the election? So you, within the 3 weeks is when you're actually doing this process.
Right.
And those votes, if you do find out, because I also have the other question about the signature was around like the challenge. So you solve the problem before the results are certified.
Right. Yeah. So the way the timeline works is we have 21 days after election day is the deadline to cure any challenges. And then the next Monday is the certification deadline.
okay, we need to move on to other commissioners. Do other commissioners have any questions or comments?
Yes. Very quickly.
And you'll get up to 10 minutes.
Okay. I'll hopefully need much less than that. 2 lines of thought, both comments and questions. One is around just privacy overall and the presence of both the QR code, which I've understood to be from the mailing house to make sure they're as part of their quality check process. And then I also heard you talk today about a unique ballot ID that can be used to make sure that someone doesn't submit more than one ballot and that only the accurate or the most recently issued one is counted, essentially. At least that's what I heard you say.
That's correct.
Can you explain to me how people's privacy is still protected despite these unique identifiers being present in this process? Because I don't fully, it's a little hard for me to wrap my head around those two things going together.
Right. Well, thank you for the opportunity to answer this question. So the unique ballot identifier is on the ballot envelope. Okay. And that's it's called the 3 of 9 barcode. It's the one with the vertical
Ballot
lines.
envelope that goes back to you or the ballot envelope that comes to us?
Oh, okay. So the ballot packet that you receive has a window,
Mhm.
and then you open that, and inside that there is a signature on it.
Right.
And so when I say ballot envelope, that's what I mean.
The
It's
signature.
the signature envelope.
Okay, thank you.
So that has a barcode on there that has the ballot identification number. So it's just on the envelope. And then-
So there's nothing that prevents someone from taking the wrong ballot and putting it into the right envelope.
there's nothing that
Okay.
prevents
So
somebody.
the ballot is truly, there is no unique identifier on the physical ballot.
So yes, there is no identifier on the physical ballot that will tie it back to an individual voter.
Okay.
Yeah. But there is, obviously, the ballots that go through our mailing house do have a 2D barcode in the upper left-hand corner of the ballot. So that is for matching in that manufacturing process where the ballot packets are assembled. So since we have 400,000 registered voters, we have to have efficiencies in the process in order to put those ballot packets together in, we really only have about 2 to 3 days to do it. And it's just not possible without some degree of automation. And so we've worked with our mailing house to set up the system where they will match the correct ballot style to the correct ballot envelope. And then that information that connects that ballot envelope with the voter's name on it to that ballot style is not something that we possess. It's something that only our mailing house uses as they are putting that mailing job together.
Someone got their data.
And then when the mailing, sorry,
Yeah,
I'm
that's
so close. And when they are done with the mailing job, they destroy that data. So they are the only people that have that information. When they are done, when the ballots are wrapped up, sent to the post office, that information is destroyed. It wouldn't be possible for somebody to get their hands on that data.
So if someone got that data, be the last question. If someone did manage to get that data somehow, would they be able to match it to an individual person or only to that ballot style?
So I can't answer that question. I suspect it would be just the ballot style.
Okay.
But it's a hypothetical, and since I've never been involved in that part of the process, I couldn't say. But it is part of our security agreement that information is destroyed.
Immediately. My last comment is going to be really more of a comment and not a question, and that is just to explore this. You use the term bipartisan a lot of times in the review groups, etc. As someone who's not part of a party and never has been since I registered to vote, when I first turned 18, that just like listening to that a lot of times made me think about minor party candidates, minor party participants, and now the very large burgeoning non-affiliated voters and how and where they're represented in that process. So just some feedback or things to think about there. I don't know.
What is that in the ORS?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Chair Harrington sort of identified where I was going to go with that. The bipartisan language is statutory. So there are certain things that we are required to do by statute where we are working with bipartisan teams, right? So
And that's defined as Republican and Democrats.
it's defined as members of the same major political party.
So if there was a new major political party, it would be inserted into that process?
So
As determined by
The legislature?
Oregon.
I'd have to check on that and get back to you. I believe so. My recollection of the language is that it is major political party, and typically we don't have a situation where we have, 4 members of the Working Family Party or Green Party or what have you. It's normally Republican and Democrat. We certainly wouldn't put 4 members of minor political party together if they were all the same party if we knew that. But the way it's set up right now is we have Republican and Democrat and then everybody else, whether they're associated with the minor political party or not.
So there are others that participate. That's not just.
Oh, yeah, certainly.
When you say bipartisan, that means, to me, it means 2.
Yeah.
And it sounds like that's not
right.
Exactly. So there are NAV voters too?
Oh, there are workers who are not affiliated.
So why do we call it bipartisan groups?
Well, it just points to the statutory requirement
Okay.
that we cannot have 2 members of the same political party doing certain functions.
On their own.
On their own. So for example, adjudicating ballots or opening ballots, those are called out specifically in statute.
Okay, thank you.
Other commissioners?
I have
Commissioner Tree?
2 questions. I'm a little unclear. We talk about inactive voters and then we've used the term clearing the voter records. And I don't know if there's any difference between those two. You become inactive after 2 presidential cycles. I got that. But then what happens to you if you continue not vote? Are they ever removed totally?
Right. Yeah. So the distinction is actually between active, inactive, and canceled voters.
Okay.
So voters who move out of state, who are
Canceled.
deceased, or who don't participate in those 2 cycles are canceled.
So the 2 cycles cancels you. It doesn't. And then what is the category? Is there a category inactive voters?
Yes. Yeah.
And
There are.
what, and
So if
those
we,
are in that maybe the 2 they voted in one, but not the next?
Well, it would be if we sent out a ballot and we received that ballot back undeliverable. We would inactivate the voter because we don't know
Is
where
there a process once they're inactive that they either get back or get off?
Yeah, so if a voter becomes inactive, there's a correspondence that goes out, and that correspondence is a forwardable piece of mail. And so they have the option, if they receive that, to let us know that they want to cancel their registration, they've moved out of state, or no, they still want to be an active voter and they can send it back and let us know that.
And if they do neither,
They remain inactive.
forever?
I believe they would just remain inactive forever, yeah.
Thank you. And then the last question is, we're experiencing a lot of feedback from our in our meetings about the election processes. You well know. Are other jurisdictions in the same situation, to your knowledge? I'm sure you have meetings with other elections officials. Are they experiencing the same level of discussion that we are?
I think it's going to vary, county by county, but I know that some of the other counties are definitely, getting a lot of feedback from constituents on these issues.
At the same, to your knowledge?
Yeah, I think so,
Okay.
to the same level.
Okay, thank you.
Not unusual.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I was thinking of, and you don't have to answer this, but I was just saying, my wife and I sit down and we do our ballots, we do them together. And then what happens if I inadvertently pick up her ballot and put it in my envelope and I sign back my envelope from me and she does vice versa? Is that ever detected?
Yes, it's very common. It happens every election. And so what we do in those cases, and this is pretty standard among, Washington or Oregon counties, is we call that a household swap. It's even got a name. So if your wife and you send in your ballots, but you've signed your wife's ballot and she signed your ballot, we can identify that the signature matches because we see that you're a member of the same household, and we are able to then accept both ballots as long as the signatures match.
Okay.
So there's a little bit of manual process that goes on in our office.
So
but we
you
are
do
able to.
tie the ballot to the envelope.
We
Otherwise, how would you know?
Oh, no. So what we do is we get that ballot envelope back. We see the signature. We see that Jerry Willie
Name.
is not matching the signature. And then we'll look at the other household
So
members.
Commissioner Willie's question was a little different from
Different,
one you're
yeah.
answering. He's asking if he put his ballot inside.
My wife's ballot in my envelope.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
I
then,
signed-
but then they sign the right ballot.
Oh, okay.
Or
So,
sign the right envelope.
right. So in that case, no, as long as it was a ballot for the correct election, it would proceed as normal and we would just count it.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, the exception would be if a voter, and this happens too, if they put a ballot from the wrong election. So let's say they were hanging on to their ballot from November 2025, which happens. And when we opened that up, we would see that it was the wrong election. And so that ballot would be rejected. Or from a different county. So these things happen. Yep.
On to your question, Nafisa. My wife has actually submitted her ballot without signing the envelope,
Mhm.
and they did come back to her and say, you didn't sign it, and she went through the process, and it worked very smoothly. It was great.
Good. I'm glad to hear that.
So the comment I would make is we get a lot of information, obviously, every week at our meetings about the integrity of the election process. And I notice in your slides that there's a number of times you said, honesty and integrity and dedication. I just want you to be assured from at least my standpoint. I think I speak for the commission. This isn't a question about you and your team's integrity or honesty. I think it's a question, obviously, a challenge of the process. I am not a fan of motor voter registration. I just don't like that process, but it has nothing to do with you. And so I just want to say, from my standpoint, I think you and your team are doing a great job. You're trying to be very transparent and trying to meet the questions and the demands that they are putting on you. And I have questions as well, but it's nothing to do with you and your team. So I
Yeah.
just want to make sure that you understand we think you're doing a great job.
Well, thank you for that vote of confidence. And I will say too that the vast majority of comments that we receive from the public are overwhelmingly positive and aligned with
Yeah,
what
that's
you
good.
just
So,
expressed.
thank you. Go ahead.
Great, thank you. I have a question about, I'm trying to ensure that I've asked a question about ballot handling that will help clarify a few things that we've been hearing in comments. So we've gotten several comments from people who say, well, I dropped the ballot in the mail, but for whatever reason, they think their votes weren't counted. And as we've gotten comments from folks, I have reminded myself, but I won't offer you the opportunity to tell me I'm wrong. It's the county's responsibility to get the ballot sent out to the voters per the registration. And then it's the responsibility of the county to process those ballots as they are returned to the county. So in between, it's the responsibility of voters just like me to get my ballot to either a drop box, the ballot boxes in libraries, for example, or to the elections office. But just trusting that if I put it in the mail, it's going to get there, that's not the county's responsibility. Correct?
Yeah, I think you are correct. I mean, I will say though that we have a lot of faith in the ability and the capacity of our partners at the post office.
Yes.
For the mail,
absolutely.
wouldn't work without them. Just to speak to your broader point, from the elections division standpoint, we do whatever we can to reduce the barriers for eligible voters to participate in the process. And so, we supply as many ballot drop box sites as we can reasonably do. And we make sure that we're getting the information out to the voters, that we're giving them plenty of time to return the ballot. But at a certain point, we can't dictate if voters are going to participate or in what kind of numbers they're going to participate. There's a lot that is on the voter.
Yeah. Well, and I do have two more comments, and one of them is just echoing the same sentiments that Commissioner Willie and other commissioners have made about our positive appreciation for the work that the elections office does. But the last one is with, oh darn, I got it there for a second. It related to, shoot, I forgot it again. Oh yes, now I remember. I received comments from several folks about, I appreciated the emails that we received about the very high volume on election night. Now, I've always known election night has always had a high volume, but it seemed to me that the email, or my recollection is that the email that we received indicated that there was an even higher level of ballot returns on election night. And I really appreciated getting that heads up because it helped me understand as the informal results were changing that it was more than just the 7 days for the mail-in ballots. And some people were asking me, well, they heard that different groups were collecting ballots and were stuffing them into ballot drop boxes that night. And my response to them was, that may be so, but the county does not dictate how people return their ballots. There are a variety of ways for people to return their ballots, and there's nothing that says they have to use the full time of the mail-in ballot procedure. So I just wanted to make sure I shared here questions, comments that I've received from folks about that. And I'm not bothered by the fact that I received those questions or comments. And I feel very well informed from CAO to every election worker, very well informed about the process, the trust, the accuracy of the work they do. So thank you. And onward ho we go to the next election.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Chair, I think you made an important point that I think the public should really pay attention to, and that is that if you want to make sure that your ballot is counted, don't just put it in the US mail.
No.
Put it in a Dropbox, take it to the elections office. Like
And sign up for ballot tracks.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just getting, I'll be honest, a little tired of that.
There are
I
systems.
mean, there's no one in this country that's like, yeah, if I put something in first class mail, I know it's going to get there. That's just not how our postal service works.
And I forgot one other tidbit. This ballot box over here gets more than just cars. And during the cycle for this election, there were some pedestrians who found the slot didn't work. And so I just said, well, move it over. There's not a car right now. I'll stand here and hold the cars if they come. Stick it in the car slot. So I know I've used that slot before, but I don't know if there was a problem or anything. So
Well, no, I hadn't heard that, so thank you for that feedback. We actually do have the option on those drop boxes to put another opening on the end, so we might look into doing that. Thank you.
well, I was pleased to see that there are pedestrians using that box, not just cars. So keep up the good work. And I had a gentleman come in the building the day after election day, and he was very anxious about returning his ballot. And he said, you know, I have to prove that I voted. And I talked to him some more, and he thought he absolutely had to vote. And I said, no. I said, but sadly, it's a day after election, so you missed it by one day. And so we went over that a few times. And I said, but don't worry, the November election is coming. So, but I think he'll make sure to get it into a Dropbox, a secured Dropbox before the deadline in November. Thank you again for your presentation
Thank you.
today, and to everyone in the organization, including folks across all of our departments who help make sure that everything goes smoothly. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All righty. We're going to go on to another meaty topic, but for not as long, and that is the county vehicle registration fee. This is a half an hour, so we will take a break after this topic. But I will say that if we're not done with the topic and it's 3 o'clock, we need to take a break midstream. Okay?
That's perfect.
Okay, here you go.
Oh, thank you. Hi, everyone. Ann Ober.
Hurry, that was.
I'm one of the assistant county administrators.
Good afternoon, Chair and Commissioners. Jessica Pels, LUT Policy Analyst.
Good afternoon, it's Stephen Roberts, Land Use and Transportation Director.
We were here last month talking about the vehicle registration fee. Today, we are back to talk to you very specifically about two options that you asked us to return with. That is why we only have a half an hour, is because this really is two questions that we're trying to get through. As a reminder for you, this is the Resilient Transportation Funding Options Project. It was tied to the General Revenue Options Project, and we've been trying to solve revenues overall for the county. This is just one way that you all were trying to find some solutions, and this is the one we decided to move forward first. So we really appreciate the process, all of the engagement, all the outreach that's occurred in order to get us to today. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jessica.
Great, thank you. So we'll just run quickly through the presentation. I know that you've seen this work plan many times, but we just included it for public reference. So over the past year, we went through all the steps and came up with a short-term funding strategy, which resulted in this work today. So when we were previously at the board on June 2nd, as Anne mentioned, the board discussion was around bringing back two scenarios. Scenario one is a $10 increase of vehicle registration fee every 2 years for 3 cycles. And we have some charts that will show this progression. VRF scenario two is a $15 increase over 2 consecutive years. And so these were the tiered sort of phased in approach versus the just one-time $30 increase that we were initially proposing. So these next few slides are some graphs showing just the progression of how the fees could start compounding in. So this first scenario is scenario one. It's the 10-10-10, as we're calling it. And so you can see by year 32 is when it's the full $30 increase. So the chart has a couple things going on. The dashed orange line is showing our assumed annual total MISTIP funding, and that is based on the adopted board policy of applying the AV increase every year to the base. So it's the base starting in fiscal year 26, which is this year's budget, and then going up from there at 4%. And again, that is a budget policy so this is an assumption that can be changed by the board at any time, any budget year. It's also showing the green at the bottom of the chart is what we are assuming is available for cash flow. The gray line is showing our debt service payment, and that's paying back what we bonded to fund all our outstanding projects in MISTIP 3D and 3E, bonding cost sharing. And then the blue is the increment at the top that would be the vehicle registration fee revenue at the $10 increase for fiscal year 28, and then again in fiscal year 30, and then finally in fiscal year 32. Okay, so same thing for VRF scenario number 2. All the same elements are included in this chart, but the yellow, it's funny how these colors go. That yellow wasn't quite so yellow on my screen, but yellow would be the $15 increase. So that would be $15 increase in fiscal year 28, $15 in fiscal year 29, and then steady through fiscal year 32. Now this chart is a comparison of them, and actually, I don't know how to go back, but oh yeah, okay. So here I wanted to point out one thing. We're talking about MISTIP funding here, and how we began this whole project was talking about backfilling our MISTIP with the new increased increment revenue. And that is our intent going forward. But we will likely would write an ordinance in more flexible language in case there were some unforeseen maintenance needs for that money, some bridge repair or landslide on Timber Road, or all these things that come up that we can't anticipate. So we want to make
Still
it
has to
somewhat
use
flexible.
road right away.
Still has to be used in the road right away. Absolutely.
Can I just add one?
Absolutely.
Part of why this is important is because MISTIP actually funds a variety of things. These funds are really more contained to roadways. So you couldn't use it on trails. You couldn't use it in other spaces, but it could still go into the MISTIP funding pot.
Can I also want to clarify, because really it's about reducing reliance on county general fund for transportation, including MISTIP, not necessarily backfilling MISTIP, because I just want to be clear, because to some people backfilling might mean going back
Dedicated.
5 years to reductions that were made. So that's not necessarily what it would be going forward, reducing reliance on county general fund transfers.
Yeah, that's a good clarification. Thank you. This chart sort of shows that the hatched green is the VRF that we already get, and that is our maintenance focused revenue that we use, the $30 per year, the current one. And then the blue, the yellow, and the gray are showing the scenarios that we reviewed as part of this analysis. So VRF 1 is blue, VRF 2 is yellow, and then we included the gray as just for reference of the initial $30 one-time increase. Okay, and then this table we just put in here as a reference. This is showing the compounding, how much cumulative revenue we would expect to get over that 5-year period from fiscal year 20 when it would initially come into play through fiscal year 32. So this is just for your reference. And now, potential next steps for your board. We could prepare an ordinance to advance your preferred scenario. We could time that so a first reading could occur at your August 4th board meeting with a public hearing and potential ordinance adoption on August 25th. We could delay preparation of an ordinance to a future date, or we could stop working on the potential VRF adjustment at this time. And with that, I'll open you with discussion questions. What we've prepared are, do you have any questions or need more information about the potential scenarios? What direction would you like to provide to staff? And if you choose to advance one of the potential VRF scenarios, which scenario do you prefer?
I would ask you each to Chris and take more than 5 minutes. Could I ask a quick question?
Are your 5 minutes?
That's part of your 5 minutes.
Ready, set, go.
Okay. Could you go back to where we left our discussion at the previous meeting? At the very end, we discussed the impact of potential state legislation at the transportation level on our decision here. And Jason, I believe, Commissioner Snyder, you brought this up, that does this preclude us? Could you review that for me one more time, please? And maybe Jason, you want to jump in?
Can I summarize it?
Sure.
In the upcoming state legislature, the state legislature could pass a transportation bill, funding bill of some kind.
Right.
And any legislative session they can. What they have done in the past is precluded local governments from increasing their vehicle registration fee for some time period, for example, 2 to 5 years. So that's why if we want to help ensure that this topic, that we've researched it and left it in good stead for our board, we should try and take it on now versus keeping it open.
And knowing it could be adjusted later
Yeah.
if something changed at the state in a positive way.
That answers my question, but a little caveat to that is, and I think, Chair, you answered it, the state could do that at any time, anyway, correct?
If they have a legislative session.
If they when they have a legislative, I understand.
Yes, yes.
Okay, I just wanted clarity around that piece. Thank you.
I can be crisp. I think the only option, if we're going to do something, is the slower 10-10-10 ramp up. And that is just based on, I think, the reality of where our community is financially and the challenges that people have and the amount of runway time it would provide for people to prepare. I don't think I can support the faster ramp up just because of the significant feedback we've gotten. Plus, we don't know what this legislature may or may not do. So I would, if we're going to do something, that's what I would prefer it to be. I could also go with a waiting to see what the legislature does. So those are my two. I probably prefer that. I'm a strong proponent of doing the right thing for the right reasons, even when it's not popular. And for that reason, I probably mildly favor the 10-10-10.
Can I ask a quick question of Jason? In our last conversation, we talked about the 10-10-10, but I don't recall it being over a 5-year period of time. I thought it was 10 each year, like 15 was 27.
I'm the one who.
Wait 2 years,
Yep.
it jumped, wait 2 years.
So, well, I guess I would have.
That was on purpose,
Okay.
from my perspective.
So I just look at the cost of stretching this out. And in this particular case, the difference between a scenario of 1, 3, and 5, ramp up for 10, delta is $21 million over 5 years. That's not a chump change. I would have liked to have seen, I guess, even though I didn't understand your proposal, Jason, evidently, I'd like to see a 10, 10, and 10
Over 3 years.
over 3 years, first, second, third year. And what does that look like? To me, then we're comparing a little bit of apples to apples when we do a 15-15. And so, anyway, that's what I would like to have seen.
That gets to the same point after 3 years.
Yeah, yeah. So, because what to me, what we have seen historically is when they put together a transportation package, say, yeah, we got to increase the gas tax. We're going to increase it 10 cents over 10 years. And by the time you get to the 10th year, you've lost ground rather than gained ground in that 10 cents. But it was agony getting to the 10 cents. Okay. I would like to be able to make that same comparison here as to what's the 10, 10, and 10 look like. So in the third year, we are at $30 no matter which way we go.
I did just pull up this slide because it's what you keep pointing at, Commissioner.
Mhm.
I believe what you're saying is that over the second option, the 10, 10, 10, with a shorter ramp up will increase the amount of total revenue
Mhm.
within that 5-year period.
Somewhere between the.
Yeah.
one and two.
Yeah, and so the comparison obviously in this scenario is $16 million, 82 to 98. I just would have liked to have seen the other scenario of a faster ramp up of the tens. But, you know, we're at this point, I don't want to delay this.
I just don't think that's listening enough to our community.
Can we not debate it at the moment? Can we let everyone share their piece? Commissioner Five?
So question, I'll be crisp too. I'll try. Question number one, do I have any questions or need more information? I think you've done a phenomenal job of researching and having briefing with us. So I don't have any questions. I think you've educated me enough. What direction would you like to provide to staff? I would like us to pause and not take direction in this. It's not lost on me. A few months ago, we had a presentation about community polling where 65% of them said they were personally struggling with their personal finances. So that's not lost on me. And I think we need to listen to the community. If you choose to advance one of the, I choose not to advance any option right now. We need to pause. We need to listen to the community and not hit any more people's pocketbook.
Okay, I'll go next. I first want to start with, I'm really pleased with the process that we've used in advance of this project, right? Our strategic plan update, our service level assessment, looking at what's mandated and what's not, all of the misstep planning, all of the every year getting the annual road maintenance budget, and tracking how House Bill 2017 impacted things, then how the the transportation bill of the last 2 years was jeopardizing 50, 30, 20. But in all of that time, and so while I was a Metro councilor, not on the commission, and now these 7.5 years that we've been here, we've been hearing about how the backlog has increased just for maintenance, let alone the build out of new. And because of the multiple transportation bills that I've seen as an elected official, that's why I did the math of saying, okay, you got a sunk car cost, you have a car. It's a 2-year cycle for your registration. And I'm breaking it down just like I did in a prior work session. If you get one oil change a year, I used the internet, and the cheapest I could find, the average for oil change was $35 to $75. Car insurance, the average is $1,700 a year to $2,100 a year. People could opt out of the state minimum liability, and that drops their insurance down to $700 to $900 a year. So I took the absolute lowest, $700 for car insurance, $35 for one oil change, and just the original jump that we had. And I similarly took I did everything over the 2 years. And the percentage wise, if we use the lowest of that range, the $35, it was still, no matter what scenario you ran, it was less than a 4% change. And I say this because the headline is less than a 4% change. Okay, not a doubling of the rate. It's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to relieve pressure on our general fund. And if you look at the percentages here, we have to raise the VRF. We have to, because we need this relief for the general fund. Future boards will thank us for doing this. Okay, so I cannot vote. I do not agree with not doing anything, because the same people who say they're struggling with their personal finances are the same people who are going to work their wheel well, their tire wheel, just like I did in New England a whole bunch of times, because it's pothole city. And those costs are greater than this increase we're talking about. If you haven't bought yourself a new rim lately, I got something to tell you. It's going to cost less than this increase. And we just can't afford for our roads to go decrepit for whatever reason. We cannot afford to not build these projects, continue to fall further and further behind. The best that I could accept is I really wanted to advocate for going with the initial proposal of the one-time $30 increase, because we need the money. The money needs to be put into action here in Washington County. Could I live with a 2-year ramp up of 10-10 or a 3-year ramp up of 10-10-10? Yes, because it's more than what we have today. But no, I can't agree to a 5-year ramp. And I think a 3-year ramp adds an element of risk with regard to the state legislature. I think the legislature's going to have a really hard, bad session next year. And that's why I think we would be best to get this going as soon as possible. I'm willing to compromise from a one-time increase to a shorter time, a ramp up, but not over 5 years. So that's my piece.
Can I ask a technical question?
Sure. Yeah.
So if we would just say, we're going to do one or the other, let's just say we're going to do, and I guess what I also didn't understand is the first 10 and the first 15 is not until January 28th. Is that what that says?
Yeah, we're showing the revenues as fiscal year, so we're anticipating the first full year of revenue at the earliest would be fiscal year 27-28.
So when would the new rate come into play?
So the new rate, there's a process that we would need to go through to determine that, working with our partners at ODOT. They need implementation time. We would select a mutually agreeable date. Most likely it would either be January 1 or July 1 of whichever year that we find ourselves in.
So if we could do this July 1, 27,
yeah,
that would be okay. If we push
Correct.
it further than that, I mean, it's just
Yeah, and I think
months. It
yes,
costs us money.
yeah.
ODOT had originally expressed some concerns with less than 6 months of onboarding time for the fee. So that's the only caution, is that we're now implementing in August, and that is a shorter window than they had originally requested.
Okay, well,
Well,
but I
no.
guess what we're suggesting is
For July.
July
it's
1,
still
27.
within 6 months. we still have to go through the ordinance. We can get the ordinance done before December.
We had
Got it.
originally talked about January.
Yeah.
We had talked about January.
But so now am I hearing that if we do something, we also say it's going to be effective July 1, 27. That gives ODOT basically 12 months from now.
No, not, well,
Well,
oh,
but
I see your point.
We're giving them indication that we wouldn't pass it till, I don't know when, but
I think it's very safe to say we could be ready to implement by July 1, 2027.
okay.
Which is good because when do the dollars flow?
Right. They do start coming in right away. So everybody whose registration takes effect beginning in July would start paying the new rate.
No, I wasn't thinking that. I was thinking more of how from a budgetary standpoint
Mhm.
you can only estimate the revenue based on what percentage of renewals, but you can still do it. It would still have upside.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah.
So from my standpoint, and speaking for you at this very moment, we have 4 options.
Yep.
We're not going to add another alternative in here that what I thought it was going to be the 10, 10, and 10. We're going to stick with the 10 over 5. The 15 in July 1, 27 and July 1, 28. Doing nothing or $30 all at once. So that's our 4 options, right? So how you going to score this?
Commissioner Treese, I don't know if you weighed in.
I have not. Were you asking?
No, I'm just saying that's what we
Okay.
got in front of us.
Yes,
I'm wondering
okay.
if we're going to grade this.
So I just want to make a couple comments. I was out in meetings with city council people and listened to concerns about this. While I understand what the affordability issues, I also understand what our needs are. I heard loud and clear that there was no tolerance for 100% increase of anything, frankly. And at one time. I am most comfortable with scenario number 1. I recognize what the cost of scenario number 1 is, but that's what I heard in relationship to the public when I was out there and to electeds in those locations. So I am going to be voting for scenario number 1.
There's
So
no
that's
voting here.
no increase.
We're giving direction.
I mean,
Supporting.
I am supporting. Thank you.
You're supporting
Number 1.
current VR.
Scenario number 1.
No, it says scenario
Label.
number
I'm looking at number 1.
Yeah, scenario number 1. 10, 10, 10, 5-year ramp up.
Same as me.
Lisa, you are a 0. You
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
no increase.
I'm at the stop working on the potential ERV.
So it's you and me.
Well, I think this is going to be an interesting one because I'm going to go with 15-15.
Well, while I prefer 15-15, I do want us to move on this. And so I will go with scenario 1 over nothing.
10, 10, 10.
Yep.
Okay.
So we have 3 for VRF scenario 1
Correct.
with the 5-year span.
Correct.
And we will bring that back with an ordinance in August.
Yes. For effective, or
July.
our ordinance will be effective, but it wouldn't go through, we realize it wouldn't be administered by the state until July 1.
27.
Right, correct.
Okay.
No, I think you've done a marvelous job.
That was amazing. I thought it'd take longer.
And I can see how prior commissions hadn't set up such an examination well. And I really appreciate the work. I think we all appreciate the work that
Yes,
you've
thank
done on this.
One sort of legal question maybe doesn't need to be answered now, but I think I would like to understand is if we go through this process and completed in August, September, whenever that is, for implementation next July, and the legislature does something that preempts us, if we've already taken the action to go out 5 years, does that generally sort of,
They can only preempt,
what happens to the preemption?
they, ours is implemented already. We are voting to
So even if we're
implement.
talking about an increase that's 5 years out, as long as it's been established,
Yes.
then that's not preempted.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Just want to be.
Thanks for that clarification. I was thinking that too. Thank you.
Okay, so at this juncture, we're going to take a 15-minute break and then continue on with items 6 and 7.
Welcome back, Commissioners, and back to you, Chair Harrington.
Terrific. We are back from break. So first, order of business for topic 6 is formal agenda item discussion. So we have a CWS business meeting at 5:30 and a county board of commissioners meeting at 6:30. Does anyone have any questions with regard to the county business meeting tonight? Nope. We have no public hearings and we have one action item, which is the solid waste and recycling fees that we went over in work session just a couple of weeks ago. Okay, great. So why don't we go to leadership communication?
Great. Thank you, Chair Harrington. Marnie Kyle, I'm one of the ACAs sitting here for Tanya today, who is in Washington, D.C. on ICMA business, representing the county proudly. So I just have one quick item I wanted to share with you. We don't often introduce new staff to the board, but this is such a critical position for WCCLS and all of our partners that I wanted to give you an opportunity to meet. Our new WCCLS collections manager. So it's my pleasure to introduce to you Elizabeth Lopez, our new collections manager. Elizabeth brings over a decade of leadership experience at Hillsborough Public Library, where she has successfully guided teams, managed major service areas, and built strong community-focused programs. She has a proven track record of innovation and adaptability, including improving access to children's spaces, maintaining service opportunities during major vendor disruptions, and modifying programs to meet community needs during COVID. Her work reflects a deep commitment to equitable, patron-driven services, particularly through advocacy for Spanish-speaking and underserved populations. Elizabeth's collaborative approach and broad expertise position her well to strengthen the system-wide collections and advanced services that reflect the needs of our community. So we're thrilled to bring Elizabeth on board and introduce you to her.
I'm just really excited to be able to be part of this project and work collaboratively with all of our partner libraries to learn what is special about each library's collections and continue to move the work forward in a collaborative manner. I'm really excited and grateful to be part of this project and just be able to continue to provide community-driven services with our collections across Washington County. Thank you.
That's great. We know it's a whole new body of work, but working with each of the partner libraries is really important.
Given your background, I'm even more confident that we can be successful in meeting the individualized needs through this program.
Yeah. I would certainly agree with that, and I really appreciate that you use the term collaboratively when you talked about that as we work toward this need for efficiency and saving money in the process as well. So thank you very much, and I speak for myself, but I'm pretty sure I speak for everybody when I say we're here to support you through this process.
Thank you. I appreciate
Yeah, I would say welcome to Washington County. I was curious to see Lisa in the room, and I was like, did I miss something on the agenda?
Oh.
And then I thought,
Just really good stuff.
surprised if she's
Yep.
you know. So, but now I know the cat is welcome, and I am happy to hear that you're joined Washington County.
I'm happy to.
Great, great, thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
That's all I have.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair, Commissioners, kind of building on Marnie's update, because that's how we do it in sync. I wanted to let your board know that after the adoption of your budget last week, the Office of County Council is moving forward with several recruitments. We are close to filling our 2 open positions and working really closely with HR to do some reclassifications and add some new positions. So I keep saying to Mr. Bush, it's kind of overwhelming amount of recruitment we're doing, but it's a good problem to have. So we are moving ahead with that. We actually have filled 1 position, and that person is supposed to start next week. So couldn't be better timing. We're very excited, and we will bring her down to meet you when she arrives. So other than that, work continues. We're busy upstairs and be available to your board for your needs and departments.
Well, I don't envy our legal department nor all of the other departments looking into the new proposed rules from OMB and trying to assess the impacts. While NACO lets us know that there may be a few positives, usually that flexibility comes with an even greater set of negatives. So thank you in advance for all of that really hard work to look into that. And if we need to sign on any letters or given deadlines proactively at a work session or a board meeting, give thumbs up on some major points and then allow for the final letter to just be signed by the board on behalf with those themes. That'll be great.
And that's in progress, I believe, and as well some analysis, internal analysis with all the partners here that are impacted. We're looking at all of that.
Great, thank you. Okay, board discussion. You've got 5 minutes. Board communication.
I'll go first because I don't have a lot to report. I've been on vacation, but the one thing that I wanted to bring back to you all was last week JPAC supported the IBR MTIM amendment, and what this board decided unanimously was to support the project as is, not with no amendments. There were 3 different amendments that came on JPAC. One was from the mayor of Vancouver, Washington, and that was bit of a technical, which impacted the legal language in the amendment, and the attorney from Metro educated us that would actually impact and will delay the project. It was a minor amendment, but it impacted language, so that was also not voted. So it failed. And then there was another amendment from Multnomah County, and this amendment wasn't specifically to the legal language, but sort of the resolution from Metro. They wanted to add 2 whereas, and we voted not in support of that, even though it was just a bit of we could have abstained, but carrying the wishes of this board. But that amendment passed. Now there was a 3rd amendment from the mayors of Washington County, and that was specifically, it has to do with the low income part of the tolling when tolling happens, and that amendment also failed. And then the original amendment was voted on, and it barely passed because of so many people abstained, but it did pass. So the MTIM amendment for the IBR is moving forward. And that concludes my update.
I'll go. So yeah, last week was the first, District 4 was the first community engagement listening session.
In person or virtual?
In person.
Thank you.
And there was 3 attendees. 2 were from District 2 and 1 was from District 4. So we had a good conversation about what's community look like, what's a new program format look like. It was a good conversation, even though I only had 1 District 4 representative there, but still a good conversation. On Thursday, I met with the new GM from Clean Water Services, Raheem, and that was a great conversation as well to get his perspective of what he's been in office 1 month or something like that. And so he's been doing some great things, meeting with staff, and we'll look forward to hearing more from his plan of action. We also had the Clean Water Services Audit Committee meeting. We met with the independent auditor. She walked us through the process and the timelines of the audit. That is going to be the June 30, 26 audit. They are already in, they have interim field work starting actually yesterday. And so they're getting a good run on this. Hopefully we will have that audit completed and delivered to us by November 30th. And in December, we may have our first not first official audit committee meeting, because we've had 2, but this will be the one, our first audit report that we will have be going over. Yesterday, I had an interesting conversation with Stephen regarding the project that is going to be on Century Boulevard Extension. This is an MSTIP project. It's been in the works for years and years and years.
20 at least.
Yeah, actually longer than that, I think, according to my sources there. But the bottom line is it's been a while. This person, young woman, really did her homework. She was asked her if she wanted to be on the planning commission later. She really did a great job of going through her homework. Unfortunately, the project is scheduled to start next week. So it's a little late to be asking for a delay or a reevaluation of the project. And like I said, I asked her how long she had been living in that neighborhood, and she said 3 years. And I said, so okay, this project has been going on well before actually this neighborhood, before the Century High School was built. So, and she was very gracious about it. We're going to hear from her tonight in the 5-minute presentation, so you'll understand. Tomorrow I'm going to the Portland Metro Chamber annual event. I'm assuming more of you will be going with that as well. We'll hear from the Blazers' new owner, Tom Dundon. Thursday morning is the ROMAC field trip. That's our rural roads field trip. We do this once a year. It's really great to get out into the agriculture community to see what our road structure looks like and what we've got planned out there for projects. And that's a good thing. I appreciate that. So Todd, wherever you are, I saw you out there a few minutes ago. Thank you for arranging that. Monday I'm planning on attending via Zoom. You're going to be in Sisters for this, but the AOC webinar, I'm going to be listening in
You
to
mean the ledge retreat?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but they're going to have a section on the Transportation and Community Development Steering Committee will be, and I think that's like 3:30 or something. So I'm happy that I can cue in on that because I am on that committee as well.
I won't vouch for the audio being real quick.
That's always the problem on that, and you really can't be engaged, but you can at least hopefully listen.
Yeah.
Friday night, I cannot attend, but that's Adelante Mujeres Gala is on Friday evening. Forest Grove and Cornelius Chamber of Commerce Gala is on Saturday evening. I will be attending that. And next week is July 4th week, so there's not a lot going on. I have a fair board meeting on Wednesday. Just in time.
Well,
I can go next.
great.
Last week I had a check-in, my regular check-in with Chief Deputy Jim Wheaton. He is around for a little longer and then going to the FBI Academy. Yesterday morning, I went on a tour at the PGE. It's down at their IOC, which is the Integrated Operations Center in Tualatin. It was really interesting. It's highly secured, very very much state of the art. We got to see the transmission information that was coming in and out, as well as the distribution and also the trading desk. So it was very interesting to see all. What was it again? The Integrated Operations Center in Tualatin.
Oh, okay.
It's down off 124th.
Were you reacting to the trading desk comment? Do you know what that means?
No,
So the trading desk is where they buy and sell electricity, but it's highly
Real time.
in real time. And with my history, I've been involved in this before, but they have a very strong wall between the distribution and transmission side and the trading side because
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
basically insider trading if they did. So anyway, it's very interesting in how they integrate the different types of generation, whether it's wind, solar, any of their renewables along. They have a small amount of coal, and then they have hydro. So the whole concept, but what was most interesting to me and to us is the fact that the building is built to be compliant with earthquake standards. There's a heliport there that people can be airlifted in and out. I mean, it's an amazing place. So I'm just understanding how it was built, to what specifications, and to what need for the entire region was remarkable. So, and they moved those operations used to be down at World Trade Center, where in an earthquake that would be liquefied. So it's a huge upgrade. It's a beautiful facility. I've been there before, but haven't gone on the whole tour. So, I was joined on that tour with members of the Tualatin City Council, as well as Woodburn, Yamhill. So there were a number of different county commissioners, as well as city councilors and mayors. So tomorrow I'm going to be attending the Metro Chamber event as well. And then I have MPAC tomorrow night, where we will be talking about the MTAC nominations. We'll hear updates on Future Vision Engagement and Vision Summit, get an update on the 2026 Economic Development Roadmap, and hear about the 2040 Growth Concept Look Back. So there's no voting that's taking place. I don't need to get feedback from you for that, but it's going to be an informational type of meeting. Then I have a meeting Thursday, the RWAC meeting. It's going to include a debrief on the fiscal year 26-27 budget and fees, and a progress report on the regional waste plan and the 26-27 advisory plan work. So again, no votes there. I will be attending, and I believe the chair is going to be attending as well, the District 2 Community in-person listening session, and that's Thursday night. Friday, I have an RDPO Policy Committee meeting. We just sent in our votes yesterday for the budget. I worked with John Wheeler on that. It was already embedded in our current budget, and I voted yes on that. So we'll see how that's going in relationship to their costs and their money from FEMA and that whole situation. And then I'll have my first one-on-one with Raheem on Friday afternoon, and I will be attending the Adelante Mujeres Fiesta of Hope Gala.
Good, thank you.
All right. Last Thursday, we had a county audit committee meeting and met our new auditors for the first time. So that was a good orientation, and the audit committee having an opportunity to meet, work through a couple things, make sure everyone's on the same page. I think the other message I would give you is that it is likely that with the Workday implementation, that there's work being done to be more on time, but it's going to be a challenging year. There's not a lack of effort, et cetera, but I think our auditors also recognize that. The new auditors are acutely aware of the ERP implementation. So couple heads up there. Yesterday, I had my second one-on-one with our new CWS general manager. We've been really getting up on a number of issues that I've been able to help a little bit with the assignments I've had, like around Quick, et cetera. Thursday of this week, I'm going to be at an Explore Tualatin Valley and Tualatin River Keeper combined event at Tualatin Community Park in my role as a Explore Tualatin Valley board member. Friday, there's an HB 2017 Advisory Committee. I will also be attending the Fiesta of Hope on Friday night. This weekend is the Tigard Festival of Balloons. So
All right.
I give a little shout out to that. That's Tigard's biggest community event of the year.
It's going to get a little wet.
Perhaps. Monday, I mean, it's Oregon. We have no idea what's going to happen. Monday, I will be, I think AOC's having all of their committee meetings that like kind of stacked that day because of the event in Sisters. So I will be attempting to attend virtually the Public Safety and Veterans Steering Committee meeting.
Okay.
Tuesday of next week, we have an SHS briefing discussion. I think you and I do with some of the some of our housing leaders, and then I have an enhanced Sheriff's Patrol District levy planning meeting and a one-on-one with the county administrator. And then later that afternoon, evening, the Tigard City Manager candidates are going to be having a public forum. They haven't even announced who they are yet, but next Tuesday, there will be a public forum for anyone that wants to provide input or talk with the finalist candidates from the community. That's all I got.
Cool.
I will be there. I guess I should say that. I was saying that because I was specifically asked to attend and participate.
Great. Well, I was on vacation last week, and though Ann Ober and I had far too many phone conversations, otherwise, I didn't have any other county work. So it was refreshing to only carry one phone and occasionally two. So she managed to track me down on my personal phone quite frequently, as was appropriate. I will be attending in person the AOC Ledge Retreat. So if there's anything you're concerned about as the Ledge delegate, Ledge Committee delegate from our county, please let me know. I also have an interview. There are a bunch of us that are outgoing. And so AOC has asked several of us to be interviewed about AOC. And I am in the throes of finalizing a presentation with Grace's help on rethinking county budget, part of that webinar series. So we're just harvesting a lot of presentations that we've had during our process.
And when the Commissioner Snyder participated in.
It's this
follow-up.
It's the follow-up.
Yeah.
It's about, how the boards go through their decision making.
And you're speaking.
Yeah, and what the public input is. So as usual, I'm throwing a lot of slides at them, but I'll just be jumping through them so that they can see what our process is and can see slides that show the work that we do. So, and I can't remember what date. That's this Friday. Yes, it's this Friday. But I don't remember the time. I think it might be at like 11. Don't forget that July 3rd, Friday, July 3rd is a holiday. So don't be showing up to work that day because you'll be really alone. So have a good holiday weekend for sure. Next week, meeting wise for me is somewhat quiet, which is nice. So, but if I'm not here in the office, I'll be available at home. So don't hesitate to give me a ring. Okay. Great. That's it for this portion of our agenda. So we are going to move to our last agenda topic, which is an executive session. It'll take us a few minutes to get all the change up for that. member,
Uh-huh.
that's your bow out. So I'd like to ask for a motion to adjourn to executive session pursuant to ORS 192.660 sub 2 sub D for the purposes of discussing labor negotiations.
Second.
All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand. Thank you. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 5-0. We'll see you in July, everybody else. We're adjourning to executive session.